Hey guys, this is Tara with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and I am met with very many awesome, beautiful souls from our community, and we're going to be going into part two of our little three-part series, our little 5D panel. So if you didn't get to see part one, we were talking about the shadow side of spirituality, so definitely go check that out. But today we're talking about our unique daily practices, our unique spiritual practices. So no, not the practices that you would see, here or there on Instagram. It's things that are uniquely us, things that we've come up with for us and that we find work for us, things that we have found didn't work for us and why. So I'm fascinated. I'm excited to hear what our homies here have to say. But we have Liesl, Dana, Heather, and Suzi in the house, and I have linked all of their information down below if you want to check out their websites, their social medias, their YouTube channels. Definitely go have a look there. But let's go ahead and get started. And actually, I have a couple of crystals here, speaking of unique daily practices. And I'm always working with crystals. I'm glad that James has a crystal shop because it's like I have all the crystals just at my disposal to work with, and he handpicks some really lovely things. But he suggested for this chat that I bust out his Aquador. So it's Heliodor and Aquamarine. So
That's beautiful.
Such an awesome vibe to it. I actually had it in my hands during part one of our chat. And then this I have here is a palm stone. It's an indigo gabbro palm stone, and we bought a bag of them for Desert Cauldron. So eventually we'll have it in our shop. By the way, our link is down below if you want to go check it out, but I'm hanging out with some indigo today. All right. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at our questions. All right. So my question for you lovely ladies, what daily practice have you created yourself and why? And how is it unique to you? So tell me all about your daily practice. Anybody can go.
I'll go.
Oh, Heather, please do. I keep talking. You go, please.
No, you're fine. It's not like we're all here just to share. I think a lot of us fall into the trap that we need, like, to buy things. And so I've started creating my own tools that are personal to me and that I can use in my daily practices. And like a lot of people take salt baths, you'll hear that a lot of the time. I do take salt baths, but you know what is unique that I add to it is I add seashells to my bath and use those because they're very grounding, very protective, and they're also very cleansing because they do come from the ocean. And the second one that is unique to me is I do, like, yes, I have an altar to my deities and stuff like that, but I actually do something called what's called the altar body. So I'll either fast and dedicate that as a practice to my ancestors because we don't know who all of them are. And I will eat raw if I do eat during the day. And then I'll eat in the evening. It's just something that I've developed. It's taken me time to transition to that. And it's something that just gradually, slowly happened and I was able to attain. But I do find if I keep myself clear and I eat good foods, and it is a dedication and a commitment that I made to my ancestors.
Dude,
That's
I
it.
love it. That's cool. And with the seashells and the tub and everything, that's dude. Right up my alley. Let's see. Maybe I should pick on somebody. I'm going to pick on Lisa.
Okay, I think with me, a lot of it's about frequency. Again, it's dark here most of the year, so I tend to try and get up as the sun rises, although you don't really see the sun much, but as daybreak comes, I do find that's a really optimistic time of the day. Gratitude goes a long way with me because I never used to have a lot of gratitude, to be honest. So I kind of thank the divine for things that you can't buy, like you say, like just the fact we've got a lovely day, or things out in nature and all that kind of thing. I'm kind of a bit of a nerd when it comes to quantum mechanics, and I discovered something that everything has a frequency, whether it's color reflecting light waves and particles can act as waves and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit deep, but so as you know, I work with wood quite a lot. It has a very beautiful energy. As you can see, I'm quite into color, and again, that vibrates at a certain frequency. And yeah, again, like I make my own tools. It's all very homespun here. A lot of it's a bit crazy. I might put things together and think, oh wow, yeah, I can use this, I can use that. I do work a bit with crystals as well, although I'm quite new to that really. And yeah, just sort of basically go with flow as much as I can, because again, being sort of Capricorn sun, I can be very resistant to things, and that's something I've become aware of recently. So try and open myself up a bit in the morning, give myself a chance. I'm always grumpy for at least the first hour, so like I kind of need that time just to sit, meditate, and not really have to speak to anyone. I will be honest. That's it, really, quite simple.
Oh, I love it. It's awesome. I think the more simple, the better, at least in my opinion, for me, because I'm more likely to do things that are beneficial for me if they're kept simple. Like, the more elaborate, even though I want things to be like so beautiful and pretty, and maybe that's like my Libra moon, I just can't stick to the beautiful Instagram pretty, all of that aesthetic. It's actually not me, but I sometimes wish it was, but more simple the better. So let's see. Maybe Suzi, want to let us in on your unique spiritual practice?
Okay, one of the things I shared the picture ahead of time that is very important to me is this rainbow body Buddha is extremely important to me, because in our day-to-day lives we see symbols everywhere, and it gets into our subconscious. It's kind of like, why did McDonald's pick the big arches in bright yellow and orange? Because it actually leads us to say, oh, I need to get a McDonald's. It does something to us subconsciously. So to kind of replace symbols that get into my subconscious, it was recommended we look at our phones a lot, don't we? Right? Maybe 40 times a day. This is what my mind sees every time I open my phone. It's also my wallpaper on my laptop. And I have noticed, since I've been doing this for about 3 years, this is when I, quote unquote, started becoming awake. So I actually think it has gotten into my subconscious. There's something in this image from the Himalayas, and I'm not a Buddhist, but it works. It's supposed to raise my frequency of love, compassion. And I've noticed, since I've been doing this, and this is daily because I'm constantly on my laptop, and not so much my phone, but I do check my phone. I have become a better person. So I highly recommend it to anybody. It doesn't have to be the Buddha. You find an image that works for you. It literally, it gets in the subconscious. So that's pertinent. If I hadn't done that, I do not know where I would be. So I call it the Buddha and the subconscious. I mean, colors and things affect us too. I use color therapy. There's certain colors where, like I wear pinks a lot. The reason I wear pink is it puts me, and that will be different for everybody else. Some people love yellow, but pinks bring me into a love frequency. So I'm very careful on what colors I wear. Astro weather, first thing in the morning, I want to check what's going on globally for the collective, but also for me. And the reason this has become a daily ritual at like 3:55 a.m. in the morning or whenever I get up is it will give me a warning, not to be frightening, but if I have a very bad transit or something is squaring my moon, or say that my Mars is squaring something, it puts me on alert to watch my behavior. So in the past, before astrology, I wouldn't have known that I'm going to be having energies coming towards me that make me snap at my partner, or in my working days. I always tried to get along with coworkers, but once in a while, somebody would literally get on my nerves, or I'd get on their nerves. So it gives me the ability, with checking astro weather, to see the pitfalls and also the benefits, what can manifest. And like right now, even the astrology happened to be very good for all of us to do this 5D panel. So if I know many of you do astrology, but for anybody who's listening, you can go onto astro.com and get daily transits. It's like $4 a month or $6 a month, and they deliver it in your mailbox each morning, and it gets very specific. So that has helped me. Like even tonight, it was telling me, well, Jupiter was making a nice aspect to my sun, and that gave me a kind of a lift of it's going to be okay. So it can actually affect your mood. So that, and then it also, I had a transit saying, listen more. So I thought, okay, can the Gemini do it? So that was huge. So that's a part of my spiritual practice that's daily. I also do extensive older books. I buy texts off eBay that can be 100 or even 150 years old. I'll give you an example why I do this. We were talking about media and fear and things of that nature, television. Well, we always hear about the Carrington event that took out all the electric during the telegraph days. That's how people communicated. And because that wasn't a worldwide system, it didn't affect them. But now they use the fear tactic that we're going to have a Carrington event and all the internet's going to go down and banking's going to go down. Well, what I learned is after looking at many older texts, this is the research part of my daily practice, is that event didn't show up anywhere until 1990. Now, why, if this was such a huge event that supposedly happened, why isn't it written about in 1900 books? So we have to be careful of playing into fear tactics. I honestly believe there was no Carrington event. Now, others are welcome to look at old encyclopedias, even from the 40s. They don't mention it. And if event was that catastrophic, they would have mentioned it. So that's part of my spiritual practice, is making my own conclusions, not what the mainstream has told us what's going on. I use discernment, a lot of discernment, and that has helped alleviate fear. That's why it ties into spirituality. It has, because fear to me is the one thing that harms us the most and holds us back in life. So by having discernment with what I hear or read, it has helped me become a much more sovereign person. And even the word authority, be your own authority, be the author of your life. Don't let other people dictate to you. So that's part of my spiritual practice. Another thing is reminders, meditation and prayer reminders. I think some of you guys have heard of Ho'oponopono, and I'm not pronouncing that right. But even on my laptop, which I use daily, it says Ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Well, that's a Hawaiian prayer that is supposed to help you kind of get a fresh start. And if you do it daily, it's a form of forgiveness for yourself and self-care, and it can be used for others. They don't have to be in your presence. You can imagine somebody. I'll just randomly pick somebody, like my mother. And there's a lot of conflict with my mother and a lot of pain and trauma. But instead of focusing in on the pain and trauma, I try to pick one good thing that I remember as a child to bring about forgiveness. And I picture her and I say, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I thank you. And I love you. And boy, I've noticed, even with no communication with her, it has helped heal my heart. I would not be able to do this daily if I did not have this nice sticker here. But it gives me a visual to remind me to do it. Another thing I do, ritual baths. And I recently learned that oxygen, for some reason, is lessening, and it makes people crabby. If you get some cheap hydrogen peroxide, 2 big bottles, and put it in the bath, you sit in that bath with those bubbles in the water, it helps you breathe. And I'm a shallow breather. I have a hard time going, so it helps open that up, bring oxygen to my head. I feel better. Nature walks, and I'm trying to learn to not just do the walk for the fitness, is to stop, that old saying, stop and smell the roses, or talk to a critter like a bird or a little lizard. I'm trying to get back to nature like our ancestors did. Their third eye was open because they didn't have all the chemicals put into the air and the food. So I thought, well, we can't control that is happening, chemtrails and toxins in our food. But what I can control is being in nature. And so that's huge. And this one, I think you guys might get a kick out of, because I come off as so serious. And sometimes when you guys are doing lives, I'm cracking up, but you guys would never know that. You'll say something and it's funny. But when I'm doing something like a Zoom or StreamYard, I'm very serious and tense. I wrote laugh more. So sometimes I'll just put on I actually have an old DVD player. I'll put on a movie like Dumb and Dumber or something like that to bring out the humor. So, and one last thing. I know some of you guys can't drink coffee and you drink tea. And I think that's wonderful. For me, I drink both, and I try to make it a ritual. And how I do that, and this is a really cheap incense burner, is I get a favorite incense in the morning and light it. It's usually frankincense. Right now, I have a very cheap one I bought called Aquarius for the age of Aquarius. It's not as nice as the good incenses. But I drink my cup of coffee with the incense, and I am trying to laugh more. So that was that. Thank you.
Awesome. So many amazing things going on in just, it seems like it's very simple practice, but very involved maybe at the same time, that you're getting a lot of information, as you start your day and getting your energy nice and settled. So amazing. Dana, what do you got going on?
So some of the stuff everyone's brought up, but I'll mention for me. So, I'm a big astrology buff, not an astrologer, but I self-teach myself all the time. And always for years, even from when I was a child, I've loved the beach. And it's funny because over time, when I started to dive into my astrology chart, I have a Mars in Scorpio. So that would signify, the scorpionic, water, and like New York accent, water, but the water. And then also with that Mars aspect, it rules over salt. So it's really interesting how I always, want that. It's very cleansing for me. And then I learned in my astrology that it very much aligns to me. So one of the big things for me is definitely things that are fire related, sun related, and even with the water. So I am very big, especially nowadays, just on the spiritual hygiene and protection. I've realized that my energy is just super sensitive to my environment and the people that I interact with. And it's always very important for myself to always be cleansed, protected, and grounded. So I really practice from when I wake up a lot of visualization, whether it's just kind of just checking myself, calling my energy back to me is a big thing because I know I'm kind of all over the place, probably at night in my dreams and in the astral. And I know this because I remember some of it. So I'm like, it's very important for me to call all parts of myself back. And over time, I, have a very fast energy, a lot of impatient energy. I am an Aries sun, and they're not known for patience. But over time, I'm a progressed Taurus sun now. So it's funny how, just the side note, when someone says, "Oh, but you don't really seem like a Gemini," well, you probably went into like that Gemini Cancer sun motion. So it kind of adds that extra layer, which is why, when we're learning and growing, you kind of change a little bit. So now I'm in my Aries Taurus era. But anywho, one of the things that I've really started to do is just to slow down, enjoy, and savor. So that's been a really big thing, even from when I have, a cup of coffee. It's just like really sitting and enjoying it. This is a very like visualization, like being in touch spiritually and in the physical. I feel like for me, it's very important to have, it allows me to be very present in the moment, not thinking about the future, what I have to do later, not what happened yesterday, but right now, this cup of coffee tastes delicious or whatever I'm doing. Then if I'm outside, sun gazing is very big for me. I can literally be in the sun all day from morning, sunrise until sunset. And I could be at the beach. I'm probably the worst person if you're not a beach person to be with, because I could be there for 10 hours nonstop, just baking in the sun, loving it, enjoying it. So for me, that's very, very healing for my vessel. I do various baths as well. If I decide to add roses into it, if I decide to add different herbs into it, I do a lot of crystal baths too. I also grid my body with crystals. I'll wear certain earrings, I'll do bracelets, I'll have necklaces, because I feel like it really does help keep my aura more protected, and I set very strong intentions with them to talk to them and activate them. I feel like is like very important for me. I'm trying to think. I do so much like throughout the day. Music. I am a Gemini moon. So music is definitely very soothing. And over time, I've been very aware of frequency. Frequency is very big for me. So I've been also just very aware, very intentional of what I'm allowing to affect my frequency, because I do feel like there are things that can very much distort it when the vibrations are off. So certain vibrations are very, very healing for me. I do sit in a lot of gratitude. That is a big, big practice for me. I think it's really important to just be thankful for the now, be present for the now. And similar to what Suzi had said earlier, not waiting for the stuff for later on to happen, like to be like, oh, when I have the money, I'll do this. And when I have this, I'm very grateful for like every part of my journey and where I am and loving myself and not rushing the process. So anything that gets me to be very present in the moment is super important to me. Another thing that I do at night is I will lay in the bed and I just, again, grid crystals. Crystals are a big deal for me. So if I put obsidian at my feet to help cleanse away energy, um, heart chakra stones, things for my crown, anything that I feel like I need to just release, and I become very, very intentional with that. My visualization has become really amazing just from practicing with that every day. For some people, it comes very natural and they do it right away. And for some of us, it takes a little bit of time, but we start to like really develop that as we stay consistent with things, which is all of this stuff is very important to me because I felt like I used to struggle with consistency. It's like that Aries sun. I have that fire energy. So it's as soon as I would used to get bored, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm over it now. So like having these practices in motion, this dedication to myself has really developed a level of self-love for myself, has really allowed me to sit and just enjoy myself. Because I live in New York and it's very fast paced and we get very caught up in the environment and we have to go here, we have to do this. Oh, who's on the phone? All of these things, and we don't just quite sit with ourselves and enjoy it. And another thing that I've actually started doing in December, and it's been super healing for my inner child. She loves it. I coloring books. So I bought some coloring books and I got myself a Tamagotchi. Which probably wasn't the best thing because it beeps and everything. But that was something I got for myself back in December. And this is another practice that I've been instilling. It wasn't something unfortunately, before I wasn't paying too much attention to, but that inner child for me, she needed it. And this is something I'll make a point to have a date with my little me and I'll color books or just do something fun that she wants to do. Riding bike really opened that up for me. Again, these are like movements, in human design, I'm a generator. So I've realized like my energy can go, go, go. So again, all of these different modalities really started to help me see certain blind spots that I didn't see or quite understand, for me to help keep the energy moving for myself. Because I feel like if I'm not moving enough in my body, I become stagnant in my energy. So I feel like I've learned that I'm a generator, very much resonates with my energy. I need to do things. I need to go to the gym. I need to go for long walks. I can walk for miles and it's very meditative for me, which may not work for everyone. But if you have that sort of an energy, like that mental stimulation, it really helps to clear my mind. So those are things, just some of the things that I do. I kind of swap things out here and there depending on like the points in my life that I'm going through. Sometimes maybe I'm feeling a little bit more blah and I need to do incorporate certain things that will help with that. And then there's other times, I do get a little bit busy and maybe I won't specifically do something, but for the most part, these are my consistent practices that I've noticed have been a game changer for me. It's brought me to be my best self, and I'm sure I'll have other things that I'm going to discover about myself. But as of right now, I feel like there's other things that I do, but I can't even think of it. But that's just some.
All of these practices, they are amazing. You guys, I'm so glad that we're sharing these, and the people that eventually, will watch this chat. If you guys have your own unique practices, definitely place in the comments. We want this to be a discussion, not just the discussion with our channel members or our panel members here, but also with our community. So everybody comes across this video, definitely let us know, what are some things that you guys do? What are some things that you've moved away from, or that you found to be very beneficial for your energy, things that really lift you up? So this is awesome. So for me, I guess it's pretty simple. Just when I get up in the morning, if I had some pretty vivid dreams, which is pretty much almost every day, I'll wake up and I'm like chatting James's ear off with, and then this happened, and then this, and then you did this, but you look like a different person, and then this happened, and da da da, and then I was walking through a wall, and then I finally figured out how to fly, and then I realized I woke up and I couldn't fly anymore, and that really sucked, and like, and it's like so I have to kind of go through my dreams first while we're still laying in bed, because I want to remember everything, as much as I can remember. And then I try to decode it, or try to figure out what my dream was trying to tell me, or where I was when I was off astral traveling. And sometimes I wake up, like this morning, I woke up with, my voice felt like I'd been screaming at a concert all night. And obviously I'd been sleeping all night. And so James was like, maybe you were screaming last night. I was like, I'm pretty sure you would have woken up. So it's interesting that whatever I'm doing in my dream, my body is feeling it kind of the next day. If I was running around in my dream, my legs are tired, and literally my muscles weren't doing anything, but it's interesting. So I have to run through my dreams first. And then after that, I start picking out James doesn't understand my little ritual of picking out my jewelry and my clothes and everything. He says, because he's like, just throw on something, throw on sweats and just go outside. The sun's outside. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get there. I have to do my thing because I want to figure out what type of clothes I want to wear, not for fashion's sake, but more for the colors. What colors am I vibing with? Because I am a colorful person. Like some days all I want to wear is all black. Some days I'm wearing all red, or I look like a Hello Kitty. I don't know. It's just, how am I feeling, or how am I not feeling, but I want to feel, and I want to embrace it. So maybe I'm not in such a great mood, but I'll dress as if I'm in the happiest mood ever, because I want to bring myself up so I can figure out why I'm not in that good mood. Is there a shadow coming up, or, whatever it may be. And the same for my jewelry, kind of like what Dana was saying. I try to pick things based on just energy and protection. Like today I have my Tanzanite ring on for peace, because I knew that my brain was going to be running a million miles an hour getting ready for our chat. And I knew that would just make me nervous, and I didn't want to be nervous. I wanted to be relaxed because you guys are awesome, and I'm not nervous around you guys. It's just, I get nervous when I plan things, because my brain's like, oh, it's got to be this way. It's got to look like this. And I'm like, just chillax, just put a little Tanzanite on it. It's going to be okay. Just roll with it. And it's been fabulous, so there's that. And then once all that's done, then I get the tea going, and I love playing with my herbs. So I use specific herbs for specific teas that just I kind of intuitively come up with on the spot. Which herb ally do I want to work with today? And then I take it out into the sun, and we sit in the sun for a little while, because the sun's very intense when you're at like 6,500 feet. So I just let myself cook in the sun, and I'm a little lizard, so I could probably just cook in the sun all day. And James is like, maybe you should put a hat on. I'm like, nah, it's all right. Let it burn me to the core, man. I'm like, I want my bones to be crispy. But so there's that. So then, we'll sit there for a while, and then I make sure that we go for a walk, a couple of times or a few times a day. We try to go for a sunset walk. We didn't go for one today, but just to slow down and notice what's going on in the trees, notice all the animals, notice the bunny tracks on the ground. I love tracking animals. So I'll point out like what's a coyote, what's a wolf, what's a dog, what's a deer, what's a rabbit, and listening to the birds and trying to identify the birds is all just kind of part of my practice, just helping me to slow down and listen to all the messages that are around me. Because otherwise, I'm going to be up in my head all day, and the day has passed me by, and I didn't notice any of it because I'll just be up here running through things, and oh, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and there's so much beauty, all around me, and so much to learn, and especially from this land, because the energy here is like gonna make you heal whether you wanted to or not. So so I really got to pay attention, up here. So yeah, that's I would say my practice when it comes to baths there. It's different up here because we have to, it's very involved. Even though we have a well here, we have to run the generator to run the well pump if we want to pump the water into the RV. And right now, one of our sinks isn't working, so we can't use the water that's in the RV. So we've been taking bucket baths for weeks now. So I just get a little bucket and I fill it with hot water and a little bit of cold water from the well. And we just squat down in the tub with a bucket and we just wash ourselves and, wash our hair. And for me, I've gotten, it's such a more mindful practice. Number one, I'm more mindful of exactly how much water I'm using. I'm using exactly 2 gallons of water to take a shower, or for me, a bath, and I'm thankful for the water because it literally came from the ground underneath this RV, like, and it's coursing through my hair. I'm thankful that I can drink it, that it's in my food, that I get to bathe with it. So it's just this peaceful time of really focusing on, the soap. And I know it sounds maybe kind of silly, but I'm just so focused on my body parts and washing them and then looking underneath my my very raggedy nails now that all my polish is coming off. But it's always full of dirt, underneath my fingernails, always full of the soil that's around here. And I'm always washing it away, all the dirt that collects on my face from just kind of running around here, and in my hair there's little twigs and sometimes juniper berries that get stuck in my hair when I'm washing it. And it's to me like, that's awesome. Like literally the nature is throwing itself onto me and I'm becoming a part of it. And so I take my nightly little bucket bath, and I guess it'll be nice when the shower is running again, but I kind of like taking a bucket bath, maybe better. So, but yeah, that's my practice there. So I had a question for you guys. Do you feel that either any part of your practice or practices that you've seen in general, do you feel out of all these things that have benefited you guys and have helped you with your energy, with grounding, being able to connect to your higher selves and the upper realms and to your dreams and everything, is there anything that you feel hinders people, or has hindered you in the past, things that you have done that you felt maybe blocked your forward progress?
Yeah, actually, one thing straight away sprung to mind, and I was surprised myself actually, but it kind of relates to what we said before, and it was dogma, strangely. No, I've not sort of like belonged to a particular religion or anything like that. I used to do a lot of Wiccan practice and that, but I don't kind of identify as like religious anymore. But yeah, dogma. That's strange. That surprised me actually. I'm gonna have to sort of contemplate that one myself, I think.
You made me realize how much I got in my head about these questions, because I do a lot of the things that you guys do. I think when you said permission slips is giving myself permission to do things. I had to learn to be consistent, and I had to learn to take time for myself, because sometimes you'll make the excuse or I have to have permission. It's about making that time for yourself. I had to learn to wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning so I could meditate. So I had that quiet time so I could actually go within. So that was a lesson that I had to learn, is stop. And I love that permission slips, because that's going to stick with me forever now.
I actually have one thing that was really interesting. So for a lot of people, the kind of sitting still meditation, which when I first started my journey back to myself and my awareness, I thought there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't silently meditate. I couldn't sit. I was very like fidgety, like my energy is, I have a lot of energy, and it just didn't work for me. It really didn't. And now I could do it, but in the beginning part, I was associating that I wasn't good enough because I couldn't do this like sitting meditation of being still. And it wasn't until, again, over time, I realized I do actually much better with like a walking meditation. I'm not saying that I don't sit now in silence and stillness and I'm able to facilitate that at this point in my life, because I actually can and I really do enjoy it. But that's come with a lot of discipline and a lot of me just slowing down in general. But in my earlier time when I first started, I felt like it really hindered me. And I felt like I really shamed myself a little bit for it, because I felt like there was something off, or I wasn't as disciplined as other people, and what was wrong with me. And again, not understanding what was particular to me. So I think us realizing there's these different forms of meditation, what's going to work for your energy. And over time, I started to realize I am definitely more of a fidgety person. And maybe if throughout the day I didn't get out all of that energy, it is going to be a lot harder for me to be still and sit. So I think with all of the practices and just starting to really understand myself, those things have really helped me along the way. But in the beginning, I definitely could not sit still in meditation. My mind would just start like thinking of, and I just couldn't. I'd be like, oh, meatloaf, and, oh, there's a starfish, and all of these random things. And I just didn't want to be still.
Yeah, actually talking about meditation and being fidgety, that reminds me when I guess I was getting more into my spirituality, but I had met a person now who's my friend, but at the time she used to be my acupuncturist. And I went to go see her because um, I was after school going to go take kung fu, and I would hurt myself sparring. And I actually had jacked up my foot trying to kick somebody in the ribs. And so I know it doesn't sound very love and light, but we were doing it for fun anyway. so so I went to go see her, and she would tell me to uh, direct the energy in my body, and she says she calls them her swords, but they're the needles, that she uses for acupuncture. And she said that the needles help, but you have to be the one that directs your energy. You have to be the one that has to work on healing yourself for these needles to work. And I was like, oh, okay. So she's like, so get into a meditation. I was like just go to sleep. She was like, no, I mean, calm your mind, and she says, and get into a nice meditation. I was like, okay. And I was trying, but I was thinking of all the things that I would have to do for the students and at school the next day, or what was next on the curriculum. And I couldn't stop thinking. So she said, here, let me help you. And I can kind of show you what meditation should be like. So she says, I want you to, focus on, one thing. Let's focus on a color. If you like colors, and you're just going to feel into that color and just how it's making you feel. And if there's any music that comes with that color, and you're just going to go into that. And then she put a needle at the top of my head to activate the crown chakra, and it knocked me out. Like I actually went to sleep. Just, and then when I woke up, it wasn't a normal going to sleep, but I had been astral traveling through her office. Like I could see all the clients that she was working on and everything. And I was like telling her all this, and she says, that's meditation. She says, okay, try to do that again, but this time without me helping you. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of how I learned to still my mind with meditation, is I had to get knocked out with a needle to the brain. But but yeah, and so thinking about other practices, I guess, that maybe I see have hindered myself and maybe others, is when maybe not, and sort of, I guess, along the lines of dogma, but kind of what Liesl was saying, but also when people have a set practice, like I always do this and it always has to be done this way. And they start just going through the motions instead of the original meaning and feeling that was behind it in the first place, but feeling like they have to adhere to it and not change it, and becoming very rigid with it because, like, no, I have to do it this way, and there can only be one, one way. And so I think that maybe if people were a little more forgiving of themselves, saying, well, you're growing, so maybe it's time to change up the practice a little bit. But I think that sometimes being so rigid stops people from really getting the most out of their practice as they could. I think, I don't know, just my opinion. But any other thoughts really on this?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Pardon me. Sometimes for me, I used to think, like, say I had a magical book, and I was just starting magic. Oh, I need the athame, I need this, I need that. And then it almost became like just like merchandising and buying things, but there wasn't any heart or feeling behind it. So then I started thinking, what can I find around my house? I'm going to write my own spell. I don't need to use an elaborate spell, because exactly what you said, Tara, the quantum field, whatever this is, this place, works on feeling. So if you envision it but feel it, it's kind of like, there's an old story, you may have heard it. They needed in Indian land somewhere in the Southwest, and they hired all these rainmakers, these shamans, and nothing would happen. And then the gentleman, the last attempt, they hired somebody. He came out, he put his feet in the dirt. He didn't bring any all elaborate drumming and feathers or whatever to do rainmaking and dancing. He put his feet in the dirt, and maybe 30 seconds later, he said, okay, we're done. Let's go to lunch, to his friend. And he said, that's it. And that very night, it started raining because they had been in a drought. So his friend called him up and said, well, what did you do? He said, I was rain. I became rain. What rain feels like and smells like. So it could be that simple. You just, if you become the thing and have the true, you can manifest it. And that's just what I wanted to add, because I have been noticing that is working in my life. I want my plant to come back to life that almost died at Christmas. I start talking to my plant. You're beautiful. Your water is nutritious. And it's just the feeling. I didn't go out and buy special fertilizers. Now the plant is growing beautiful. It's frequency, like many of you mentioned. So I'll add that. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely putting the intention, into the practice. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be full of stuff. It could just be you. As Heather was saying, the altar. You are the altar. And I had said something similar to that a while back. I think it was for my Santa Muerte video, and some people were saying, "Oh, I don't have a lot of money, and I know that you're supposed to do this, this, and this, and this for Santa Muerte. You're supposed to buy this. You're supposed to buy this. Otherwise, she won't acknowledge you." And I was like, "Well, first of all, she's a deity. She's an energy. Why the heck would an energy care about what 3D things you can give them? I don't think they do." I was like, so if you feel a connection with this energy, then just work with the energy. What you have to offer is your beautiful self. and your energy and the communication, the things that the two energies can learn from each other. And if you feel called to, sure, offer up something, but I don't think it's mandatory. I don't see how buying something, even the cool things that I have here are going to, I don't know, make it better than something else that's more simplistic. So it's just my my thoughts.
I'm in absolute agreement with you. I find like I just was going to share this because you guys made me think of it. Like when I meditate, all you need is you. And like if you want to offer your DD something, you can write them a poem, you can dance with them, just spend time with them, talk to them. I find if I breathe into my heart center and focus on the gratitude that I have every day, and just think how grateful I am and center myself in the heart is the best thing I can do. I breathe it in, I breathe it out. I breathe it in, I breathe it out. It's a good way to focus.
Yeah, the breath work is kind of the focus of a lot of some of the spiritualities out there, because like Susie was saying that her breath becomes very shallow sometimes, so she has to remember to breathe. And I think that it's very important for us, which is why I always at the end of my live chats make sure that I do some sort of healing meditation where we have to breathe, we're focusing on the breath. And I do that as much for others as I do it for myself, because I have shallow breathing, and I don't know if that contributes to my slow circulation that I have, and I told James, I said, my mom has slow circulation, my grandfather had it, and he says, well, that's the 3D version of what's going on with your body. So what's causing the slow circulation? What is causing your human body to want to take a shallow breath? What are you afraid to breathe in? What are you afraid to exhale? He says, so that is what you need to focus on. I'm like, yeah, I forget about these things, So I'm glad, I have somebody there to kind of, help me with that. But yeah, definitely breath work. And I don't know, have you guys seen videos? There's this guy called Wim Hof.
Yes.
Yeah, so Wim Hof, he's I forget what country he's in, but he's known as the Iceman. So basically, he teaches people how to control the body and get connected with the ethereal self through the breath. And when focusing on the breath, nothing that's happening to the physical body will actually affect you. So he takes people out into ice water where there's snow everywhere, and they're just in their underwear, really. And they go into the ice water, and they start this, they go in there and they're freezing at first. They're like, oh my God, because like the water's like, 10 degrees or whatever. And they start breathing. And once they do, there's these doctors there, and they're hooking them up, and their core temperatures start rising. And they start heating up the water around them. And they're literally, there's no scientific explanation, for it. And, where he's gone into like the hospital, because he likes to run around barefoot in the snow, and he had gotten frostbite on his toes, even though it didn't hurt him to run around barefoot. And the doctor's like, oh, we're going to have to amputate. And he's like, oh, well, that just won't do. So the doctor left to go get ready for whatever it was. And he's sitting there, and he's just breathing, and he breathed life back into his black toes. And so the doctor was like, how did you do that? That's not possible. That's impossible. And so then the doctor's like, oh, well, you're just a freak of nature. Other people can't do that. And he's like, oh yeah? He says, let's do a study. He goes, you pick out some kids, like some kids that are in training to become doctors, pre-med. I'm going to teach them my technique, and they're going to be able to do what I do. And they're like, no, that's not possible. Science says you can't do that. So yeah, he was able to teach those kids in 2 weeks exactly what he could do. And so now he just teaches classes all over the world, and it's just breathing. The whole core of it is breath. And I was like, dude, like if only we could just, myself included, just like really connect to that higher self, to the point where the 3D body isn't what governs you anymore. It's the higher self that governs things. It's not, it's backwards, I think. the world governing us, but we are the world. So we can therefore manipulate the world. We can change the world. But I'm going off topic, so sorry, little Gemini over here. But anyway, any other thoughts for our unique daily practices?
Just one thing I think I will add as far as for something that didn't work for me, and I actually felt like I don't want to necessarily say like these things hinder, because in essence they really do teach us. So it's never like it's meant to happen, I guess, as is. But so the books, there are certain books like The Secret that Suzi had mentioned, those things that were like very popular, which I actually, appreciated, because it did help contribute to like my awakening and kind of got me really interested and curious. But obviously it's on the more superficial level, kind of like the typical, like, how do you get money and how do you get, manifesting, right? And I felt like over time, I'm not saying that I guess I never manifested before, but even before I started to study like human design, which I really actually love this layer of learning about the soul, what really resonated with me is that in essence, the way that my aura, my energy speaks to the universe, it's not in a manifesting way. It's more that I tap in and bring things to me. And what I actually found worked for me is when I'm actually a little bit more laid back and I'm listening to my gut, and I'm like, ooh, like if I'm contracting and if things don't feel right, that's the way of me knowing what's for me and what's not for me. And I feel as though all of these things, it's manifesting is a very big thing, because I don't feel like everyone's meant to be a millionaire. I don't feel like everyone's meant to have a mansion or have certain things, because I feel like certain things will throw us off path. I also feel like I don't quite subscribe to having 100% free will here. I feel as though in soul essence and who we are, we come here with a particular energy and we express it in a free will sort of a way. So it's like, yes, my energy I have in Aries and Gemini, and I have these certain placements and they are in certain areas of my life. So I'm not going to have that Taurus sun energy, somewhere the way someone else will, because I'm not here for that sort of experience. So I think a lot of this sort of like new age conditioning of like, you can manifest everything you want. And I feel like what happens is it actually discourages people, because they're like, well, why can't I get this? What's wrong with me? Or what's going on? Where's the disconnect? And that's not to say that there's not things we aren't supposed to be looking within ourselves and doing. But again, I feel like in essence, the most important thing is understanding your energy, because we're all different. Like, I can't even express this as not enough. As much as we're the same in certain ways, we're very, very different. So I feel like that's all stuff that's like meant to detour you to a certain degree. And people can really like loop into it and get caught up into that. And that was just something that totally did not work for me and I felt like it was actually draining for me, trying to manifest and writing my name on a check. And I'm not saying that some of these things didn't help, but I feel much more aligned in understanding my aura and how I speak to the universe and how I connect with my higher self, as opposed to forcing something. Because I feel like all of our energy, we came here to express ourselves a certain way. So that's been the most important thing for me, is like understanding your soul, understanding your energy, understanding how you specifically communicate with the universe. And that's not to say that some of these books don't help or some of these things, but what they leave out is exactly that. It's like your uniqueness. I feel like that's very important to say, like, don't generalize and say this has to work for everyone. Like, that's the misleading part of everything, is that it's like there's like a selling point. This has to work for you. No, it doesn't. I can suggest something that works for me, but if you're a manifester and your energy works very differently than mine as a generator, no, what I do may not work for you. So I feel like there has to be like this disclaimer, so to speak, I feel like, or like that's sort of like responsibility on us to be very aware and okay with, yes, what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay, because we're different energy, because you may be here to express something totally different. Like, I don't feel like I'm meant to express myself in complete solitude in a mountain somewhere. I feel like I'm here to engage, but that may work for someone, and they may be manifesting there. So I feel like that sort of stuff just didn't work for me, still does not work for me, and I'm okay with it, but I feel like may work for other people, and that's okay. So I just wanted to touch on that. And then another thing I wanted to mention, I know Suzi had mentioned astro.com, I think, for your transits. Another really good website that I use is AstroSeek. So that you could do it like on your phone, but you can like track your transits and you can look at your progressions, and it's really fascinating if people feel called to look at themselves in that way energetically. I've found that very helpful for me to see myself kind of on paper. I'm a visual person that way, so it's helped. But I just wanted to share that.
So many wonderful points and such an amazing discussion. So again, people who are going to be watching this video, you are watching this video, please go check out part 1 of our video. We were talking about the shadow side of spirituality. This one, we hope you enjoy the unique daily practices, part 2, and actually talking about connecting to our higher selves and the divine, as Dana was saying. That actually is going to segue into our part 3, which is our higher self and our 3D life. So making that connection, trials, tribulations, getting to know our higher self, all that good stuff. So make sure that you guys stay tuned for that. And like I said, the links for all of these beautiful souls is down below. So definitely check out their sites, their social media handles, all that good stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out part 3.